Decades earlier, before the life-changing decision to marry, Maggie and I first crossed paths in a bustling college cafeteria. I was an overzealous law student buried in textbooks, while Maggie, with her paint-streaked fingers and bright laughter, instantly captivated everyone around her. She was an art major, the type of person who radiated creativity and curiosity. Our first conversation was brief, sparked by her borrowing a sugar packet from my table, but it planted a seed of intrigue that would flourish in the years to come. The first year of our relationship was tumultuous, yet exhilarating. Between juggling our studies and exploring our growing feelings, we often found ourselves sneaking away to late-night diners or quiet corners of campus to talk for hours. Maggie's unfiltered honesty contrasted with my meticulous nature, creating a balance that surprised and delighted us both. It was during these formative months that I realized Maggie wasn't just someone I wanted to date. She was the person I wanted to build a life with. After college, life pulled us in different directions. Maggie pursued her dream of studying at an art institute in Paris, while I accepted a demanding position at a prestigious law firm back home. The distance tested our commitment, but through long letters and sporadic visits, we managed to keep our love alive. During one particularly memorable trip to Paris, as we strolled under the twinkling lights of the Eiffel Tower, I proposed with a small sapphire ring. Her joyful yes still echoes in my memory as one of the happiest moments of my life. Our wedding was a modest yet heartfelt ceremony, held in the backyard of Maggie's childhood home. Surrounded by close friends and family, we promised to stand by each other through life's uncertainties. The day was filled with laughter, tears, and Maggie's signature creativity, as she had painted the table centerpieces herself. The highlight of the evening was our first dance, performed under a canopy of fairy lights as a live string quartet played softly in the background. In the early years of our marriage, we faced our share of challenges, from career struggles to financial worries. Despite the difficulties, we found solace in each other's unwavering support. Our bond deepened further with the birth of our daughter, Brandy, a spirited and curious child who quickly became the center of our world. Balancing parenthood with our ambitions was no easy feat, but we tackled it as a team, relying on mutual love and understanding. As Brandy grew older, life settled into a steady rhythm. Maggie's art began gaining recognition, and I found success in my legal career. We moved into a charming suburban home, complete with a small studio where Maggie could create freely. Yet, amid the comfort of routine, we occasionally yearned for the spark of spontaneity that had defined our early years. As I sat quietly at my desk, my thoughts wandered through the tapestry of memories created during the 30 years Maggie and I had spent as husband and wife. Among the many peaks and valleys of our journey together, one radiant memory stood out above the rest: our honeymoon. The vivid recollection of that unforgettable time in Hawaii, the shared experiences, and the deepened connection made me smile absent-mindedly. It wasn't merely a vacation. It was a tribute to the love that would guide the course of our lives. From the instant we set foot in Hawaii, it felt like we'd entered a paradise untouched by time. The pressures of daily life seemed to evaporate, replaced by a calm that's almost impossible to put into words. I can still picture us walking side by side along the powdery shores of Waikiki, the ocean's gentle waves curling around our ankles. The air was thick with the sweet aroma of plumeria, a fragrance that seemed to mirror the warmth and serenity of the islands. Everything about it felt like a dream we never wanted to end. But the true magic of that time came not just from the stunning landscapes, but from the moments we shared. We ventured into dense rainforests, where hidden waterfalls tumbled into sparkling pools, leaving us in awe of nature's beauty. I'll never forget standing beside Maggie, marveling at the wild magnificence of it all, feeling closer to her with every passing moment. In Maui, we stayed in a cliffside villa with panoramic views that seemed to stretch into infinity. Each evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in fiery shades of orange and pink, we'd hold each other, savoring the quiet and the love we felt so deeply. Our nights were even more enchanting. Candlelit dinners on the beach became our favorite tradition. Under a starlit sky, we feasted on fresh seafood and local delicacies. But it was the way Maggie looked at me, her eyes full of warmth and affection, that made those dinners unforgettable. Hawaii wasn't just a destination. It became a living symbol of our love story, a chapter of our lives that we would treasure forever. Sitting there at my desk, I couldn't help but reflect on how deeply that trip had impacted us. It solidified a connection that had already been strong and infused our relationship with a sense of joy and peace that lingered long after we returned. Decades later, those memories still felt as vivid as ever, and the gratitude I felt for Maggie in those magical days remained as strong as ever. Lost in thought, I was pulled back to the present when my secretary entered the room. She paused, her eyebrows lifting as she noticed the faraway look on my face and the unmistakable smile playing on my lips. "Jason, you've been in such a great mood lately," she teased. "What's your secret? Did you hit the jackpot or something?" Her words made me chuckle, and I realized how much lighter I'd been feeling. "It's Maggie," I admitted, my voice warm. "She's been so thoughtful and loving these past couple of weeks. For the first time in years, I feel genuinely appreciated." I hesitated, then added, "Honestly, it feels like we're back on our honeymoon. I catch myself thinking about her all the time. I even call her a few times a day just to hear her voice and tell her how much I love her." I shook my head, laughing softly. "I know I sound ridiculous, like some love-struck kid, but I don't care. I feel alive again, and I don't want this feeling to end." Maggie and I had always shared a strong and steady relationship, but after 3 decades, it was natural for the spark to dim a little. Yet, in the past 2 weeks, something had shifted. Maggie's playful energy, her affectionate gestures, and her passion had reignited something between us. I didn't question the change. I simply embraced it as a chance to reconnect and rediscover what made us fall in love in the first place. That evening, I decided it was time to surprise her with a gesture of my own. Leaving work earlier than usual, I stopped by the florist to pick up 24 roses, then added a heartfelt card, a bottle of her favorite wine, and a box of chocolate-covered cherries to my collection. On top of that, I'd secretly planned a 7-day cruise to celebrate our love, and I couldn't wait to share the news. Buoyed by excitement, I walked into the house through the garage, eager to see her reaction. Instead of Maggie, though, I found our daughter, Brandy, sitting at the kitchen table. I leaned down to kiss her on the forehead and asked with a grin, "Hey, sweetie, where's your mom?" What I didn't realize was that 2 weeks earlier, Maggie and Brandy had shared a conversation that had set all these unexpected and wonderful changes into motion. It was a moment that had reshaped everything and reignited the magic we thought was fading.
"Brandy, I really don't know about this," I admitted, my voice shaky as doubt weighed heavily on me. "I love your dad so much, and I can't shake the fear that going through with this will hurt him in ways I can't fix." "Mom," Brandy said, her tone firm but comforting as she leaned forward slightly. "Dad adores you and he'll understand. You've told me before that there are things you've wanted but never let yourself have. And let's face it, Dad's not getting any younger. This is just one time. He'd want you to be happy, even if it's a little unconventional." I exhaled slowly, my hands trembling in my lap. "I can't imagine telling him," I whispered, my voice barely audible. "The idea of looking him in the eye and admitting that I'm going on a date with another man. It's impossible. I could never." "Then you don't have to," Brandy said with a shrug, her calm demeanor almost unnerving. "Let me take care of it. Alexander will be waiting for you at 7 o'clock at the restaurant. You'll leave by 6, and when Dad gets home, I'll explain everything. You'll get the chance to feel something new, something you've been longing for." A deep sigh escaped me, and I pressed my fingers to my temples, trying to ground myself. "I don't know, Brandy. Yes, I said I'd go, but now that it's real, it feels wrong. What if this damages everything I've built with your father? How can I look at him knowing I've stepped into something like this?" "Mom," Brandy said gently, her voice softening, "you don't have to carry that guilt. Over the next 2 weeks, focus on showing Dad how much you care. Remind him that he's everything to you. When I explain, he'll understand that this isn't about replacing him. It's just about stepping out of your comfort zone and allowing yourself a moment of joy. He'll see how much you still love him. Believe me, he's always given you what you need, hasn't he?" I stared at her, conflicted. Her words rang true, but my heart still wavered. Slowly I nodded, the knot in my chest loosening just slightly. "Maybe you're right," I murmured. "It's just one evening, and it doesn't mean I'm abandoning your father. After 3 decades together, one night of something different shouldn't be so terrifying. I'll spend the next 2 weeks making sure he knows how much I love him, and when I come back, I'll remind him he's my world." Brandy smiled, her confidence bolstering my shaky resolve. Exactly, Mom. Dad's a wonderful man. He'll understand, and it'll strengthen what you already have. Now I've got to run. Mike's waiting for me at home. Dinner doesn't make itself. Thanks, sweetheart, I said, a small smile creeping onto my face. Oh, and tell Mike I said hello. Are you two finally going to give me a grandchild? Brandy laughed as she grabbed her bag. Soon, Mom. We've talked about it. And we're planning to start trying in a few months. She kissed my cheek and left, the sound of the door clicking shut, leaving the house in a still silence. I wandered into the art studio Jason had lovingly built for me years ago. The space had become my sanctuary, though recently it felt like a cage, creativity stifled by the weight of my indecision. Sitting down at the easel, I stared at the blank canvas before me, the untouched brushes taunting me from the table. For weeks, my inspiration had been blocked, guilt and uncertainty strangling any spark I might have had. But as I sat there, Brandy's words began to echo in my mind, chipping away at the wall of doubt. Almost without thinking, I reached for a brush. My hand moved across the canvas in bold, sweeping strokes, colors spilling into vibrant shapes. For the first time in what felt like forever, I was creating something again. It felt liberating, like I was doing something just for me. In that quiet moment, I whispered to myself, Jason loves me. He always has. He might be upset, but I'll make him see this doesn't change how much he means to me. That evening, I decided to take things a step further. After a long, relaxing shower, I carefully styled my hair, applied makeup, and slipped into the baby doll nightgown Jason had always loved. A pair of high heels completed the look, adding a touch of confidence I hadn't felt in years. When Jason walked through the door, I greeted him with a warm smile and led him straight to the bedroom, surprising him with a spark of spontaneity we hadn't shared in ages. Maggie, this is the best welcome I've had in years, Jason said, his grin lighting up the room. Do you mean that? I teased, unable to hide my own smile. Absolutely, he said, pulling me close. I didn't realize how much I missed this. His words melted the last of my doubts. That night, we rediscovered a connection we'd let slip away. Over the next 2 weeks, we grew closer than ever, sharing laughter, closeness, and moments that felt like falling in love all over again. Jason seemed like a new man, brimming with life and joy, and I was happier than I'd been in years. Eventually, I began questioning the need for the date with Alexander. One evening, I confided in Brandy, voicing my uncertainty. I don't think I need to go through with this anymore, I admitted. Your dad and I have reconnected so beautifully. That's wonderful, Mom, she said thoughtfully. But don't make a decision just yet. Keep enjoying this time with Dad, but stay open to the idea. You might regret passing up the opportunity. Maybe, I said, weighing her words. Remind me again about Alexander. I know he's your friend's father, but tell me more about his story. Brandy's voice softened. Alexander's wife, Mary, passed away after a long battle with a brain tumor. She was his whole world, and after she died, he withdrew from everything, his family, his friends, even himself. For years, he's been stuck in that grief. When I suggested he try dating again, he said he didn't even know where to start. Her eyes brightened as she continued. When I mentioned you, something changed. He smiled for the first time in years. He said you seemed amazing and wanted to meet you. I think you could really help each other, Mom. Her words stayed with me, echoing in my thoughts as the date drew closer, stirring a mix of excitement and guilt. Texting with Alexander had an unexpected thrill. It was playful and exhilarating, awakening a flutter in my chest I hadn't experienced in years. Yet each evening I devoted myself completely to Jason, showering him with affection and attention, as though trying to balance the conflicting emotions churning within me.
I couldn't seem to stop smiling lately. Everything felt lighter, like a burden I hadn't even noticed was gone. Maggie, my wife of 30 years, seemed transformed too. She moved with a spark I hadn't seen in years, a passion that reminded me of the early days of our marriage. It was as if we were rediscovering one another, exploring a connection that was deeper, yet somehow brand new. She seemed overjoyed, caught in a moment that exceeded even her wildest dreams. I thought I couldn't be happier until everything unraveled. That evening, I walked into the kitchen carrying 24 roses, a bottle of wine, and a box of chocolates. To my surprise, Brandy, our only child, was sitting at the table. She looked up as I entered, and I felt the same rush of pride I always did when I saw her. Brandy had grown into an incredible young woman, strong and compassionate, someone I was proud to call my daughter. I sometimes regretted not spending more time with her while she was growing up. Work had always demanded so much of me, but I'd done my best to provide for her and Maggie, to give them a good life, and I thought I'd been there when it mattered most. "Brandy, what a nice surprise," I said, setting the gifts down on the table. "What are you doing here? And where's your mom?" I reached into my jacket pocket and pulled out a small envelope. "I have a big surprise for her tonight. I'm taking her on a 7-day cruise aboard the new yacht, love. She's going to be thrilled. Don't say a word. I want it to be a surprise." Brandy didn't respond immediately. Instead, she gave me a look I couldn't quite decipher. There was something in her eyes, hesitation, maybe even fear. "Dad," she said softly, her voice carrying an uncharacteristic tremor. Hearing her tone, I felt a pang of worry. It reminded me of when she was little, sitting on my lap and struggling to tell me something that upset her. But this wasn't a child's confession. There was something deeper here, something that chilled me before she even said the words. "What's wrong?" I asked, my stomach tightening. "Is everything okay with your mom?" Brandy's hands trembled as she took a breath, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "Mom's fine," she said quickly, though her tone betrayed her words. "But we need to talk." I pulled out a chair and sat across from her, trying to steady myself as dread crept into my chest. "Okay," I said carefully. "What's going on?" She hesitated, then started speaking, her words faltering. "You know how much Mom loves you, right?" she began. "She's been telling me how happy she's been lately, how much better things have felt between you two." "Yes," I said, nodding. "And I love her too. That's why I'm doing all this tonight, to show her how much I care." I gestured toward the roses and tickets, hoping to lighten whatever was weighing on her. Brandy's tears finally spilled over, and she looked away before meeting my eyes again. "Dad, I'm so sorry," she whispered. "But Mom's on a date." The words hit me like a punch to the gut. I stared at her, my mind refusing to process what I'd just heard. "What?" I managed, my voice barely audible. "What are you talking about?" "She loves you, Dad," Brandy said, her voice breaking. "But she's out with someone else tonight. She couldn't tell you herself, so she asked me to. She didn't want to hurt you, but it's just for one night. She'll be back tomorrow." I felt like the ground had been ripped out from under me. "Is this some kind of sick joke?" I asked, my voice rising. "Your mother would never betray me like this. We've been closer than ever. This doesn't make any sense." "Dad, please," Brandy said, trying to calm me. "Mom loves you. She just needed something different, something she felt was missing. She told me it wouldn't change how much she loves you. She thought it might even make things better." I stood abruptly, the chair scraping against the floor. "Why are you involved in this?" I demanded. "This is between your mother and me. She had no right to drag you into it." "Dad," Brandy said hesitantly, "Mom and I are close. We tell each other everything. She confided in me that she felt unwanted, like things had gotten stale. My friend's dad, he's been lonely since his wife passed. They connected, and I introduced them." "You what?" I shouted, my anger boiling over. "You introduced them? You set your mother up with another man? What on earth were you thinking?" "I was trying to help," Brandy said weakly, tears streaming down her face. "It sounds bad, but I thought it was what Mom needed. I didn't mean for it to hurt you." "Help?" I snapped. "Help who? Certainly not me. Where is she now? What did you mean she won't be home until tomorrow?" "She's at a restaurant," Brandy admitted quietly. "I don't know which one. After dinner, they're spending the night together, but only this once. She'll be back tomorrow." The betrayal crashed over me in waves. "So all her affection these past weeks was just her trying to cover her tracks?" I said bitterly. "She's throwing everything away for this?" "She's not throwing anything away," Brandy sobbed. "She loves you. She just needed this. Please try to understand." I stared at her, the weight of the betrayal twisting inside me. When I finally spoke, my voice was ice cold. "Brandy, I think you should leave. Now." "Dad, go," I said sharply. "You and your mother have made your choices. Now I need to make mine." Brandy sat at the table, her shoulders shaking as sobs racked her body. She buried her face in her hands, her voice muffled as she cried, "Dad, Please don't say that. I love you, and I don't want to leave. Mom and I planned for me to stay tonight so you wouldn't be alone. I looked at her, my anger simmering just below the surface, threatening to boil over. Brandy, I said, my tone cold and measured, your actions tonight have made me question whether you ever truly respected me as a father. You are so much like your mother, cut from the same cloth. For years, I worked tirelessly to give you both the life you deserved. I sacrificed my time, my dreams, and my energy for this family. And this is my reward? Betrayal? Humiliation? I've clearly been nothing more than a provider to you two. Respect? Love? Apparently those were never part of the equation. Brandy lifted her tear-streaked face, her lips trembling as she whispered, Dad, I love you. Please don't say that. Let Mom explain everything tomorrow. You've had 30 beautiful years together. I know you love her. Please, just give her this one thing and she won't leave you. She loves you. I shook my head, my voice growing louder with every word. She might have her one thing, or two, or 1,000, but she will never have me again. Forgiveness? That's out of the question. And as for this lonely man who thought it was acceptable to go after a married woman, he'll face consequences too. Now leave me. You've shown me exactly where your loyalties lie. You still have your mother, and nothing will change for the two of you. You're a perfect match. As far as I'm concerned, Brandy, you are no longer my daughter. Get out of my sight. She rose slowly, her body trembling, tears streaming down her face. She looked at me one last time as if searching for some glimmer of understanding or forgiveness. When none came, she turned and bolted out of the house, the door slamming shut behind her, the sound echoing like a final nail in the coffin of our relationship. I stood motionless, the silence around me thick and suffocating. For the first time, Brandy might have realized just how far she'd gone. Helping her mother in this absurd scheme was a decision she couldn't undo. While I hoped she understood the consequences of her actions, I didn't care in that moment. The betrayal from Maggie and Brandy felt like a blow to the chest, leaving me dazed and unable to process it, and truthfully, I didn't want to. The moment she left, I grabbed my phone and dialed Maggie's number. It went straight to voicemail. I tried again and again with the same result. My frustration grew into fury as I left message after message, pleading for her to call me to come home. When the calls failed, I turned to text messages, pouring out every ounce of my anger, heartbreak, and desperation in a futile attempt to make her see the destruction she was causing. But nothing, no response. By 2 a.m, I knew she wasn't coming back. She hadn't even acknowledged me. I sat on the couch, staring blankly at the television, though I wasn't watching anything. The noise served as a meaningless distraction from the storm in my mind. My entire world had collapsed in a single evening. I couldn't stop thinking about the 30 years we'd spent together, the life we'd built, the love we'd shared. I thought about Brandy's birth, her childhood milestones, her wedding day. I remembered Maggie and I standing together, proud of the family we'd created, believing it was unshakable. Even in recent years, our closeness had been consistent, if routine. We still made love a few times a week, always ending the night with whispered, "I love yous," as we fell asleep in each other's arms. It wasn't fiery passion anymore, but it felt real, or so I'd thought. My eyes drifted to the window where the faint outline of Maggie's art studio was visible in the moonlight. I had built that studio for her 2 decades ago, pouring my time and effort into creating a space where she could thrive. It had become her sanctuary, filled with her paintings and sculptures, many of which had won awards. I'd been so proud of her, dedicating an entire room in our house to showcase her achievements. But now, that studio represented everything I'd sacrificed: time, love, energy, only for her to throw it all away. Fueled by a mix of booze and anger, I began pacing the house, my mind spinning with dark thoughts. The more I stared at that studio, the more it became a symbol of everything Maggie had destroyed. I couldn't sit still any longer. My sadness had turned into something else entirely, a determination to act. One by one, I began hauling Maggie's belongings into the studio. Her designer shoes, her expensive dresses, her jewelry, all of it went onto a growing pile in the center of her so-called sanctuary. I scoured the house, dragging down photo albums, wedding pictures, even keepsakes from the attic. Her wedding dress, Brandy's baby clothes, everything that once held sentimental value now felt meaningless. By the time dawn broke, the studio was packed with a mountain of memories I no longer cared about. I gave myself a deadline. 6 in the morning. If Maggie hadn't returned by then, I would finish what I'd started. When the clock struck 6:05, my patience snapped. I grabbed a can of gasoline from the garage and drenched the pile, letting the fuel soak into the walls. My hand shook as I struck a match. I hesitated for only a moment before tossing it onto the studio floor. The flames roared to life, consuming everything in their path. I stood outside, watching as the fire raged, the heat stinging my skin. Smoke billowed into the sky, a visible symbol of my heartbreak and fury. When the flames grew too intense, I turned away, climbed into my truck, and drove off. My thoughts raced, but my heart felt unbearably heavy. Tears streamed down my face as I grasped the magnitude of what I'd done. By the time I reached a highway motel nearly 100 miles away, I was running on fumes. I paid in cash, not wanting to be found, and collapsed onto the bed. Exhaustion finally overtook me. When I woke around noon, I turned on my phone only to be bombarded with dozens of missed calls and messages. Brandy, Maggie, even the sheriff. The weight of that night crashed down on me all over again. There was no going back. My life, as I had known it, was gone forever.
As I stepped out of the Uber, a wave of nervous energy washed over me. My heart raced as I spotted Alexander waiting near the restaurant's entrance. He was undeniably attractive, his confident smile and relaxed posture instantly drawing my attention. Dressed sharply, he exuded a charm that made my pulse quicken. I had taken extra care with my appearance. My sleek black dress hugged my figure, sheer tights accentuated my legs, and my high heels added a touch of sophistication. Earlier that day, I'd spent hours perfecting my hair and makeup, determined to make this evening unforgettable for both of us. Alexander's eyes lit up as he saw me approach, his gaze lingering appreciatively on my outfit and the hint of skin revealed by the neckline of my dress. I felt his approval in the way he subtly adjusted his posture, and an unexpected surge of confidence bubbled up within me. Smiling, I leaned in to greet him with a light kiss on the cheek. His cologne was warm and inviting, a perfect complement to the spark of chemistry between us. We exchanged pleasantries before moving to the bar, settling onto the stools as the evening began. As we talked, I caught him stealing glances at my legs and the hem of my dress. His subtle yet undeniable interest made me feel desired in a way I hadn't felt in years. Smiling to myself, I decided to let go of my reservations. I silenced my phone and slipped it into my purse. Tonight was about living in the moment, free from distractions. Our conversation flowed effortlessly, peppered with flirtatious remarks and laughter. Alexander's easy charm and attentive demeanor drew me in, and I found myself touching his arm as I spoke, leaning closer than I usually would. It felt exhilarating, like rediscovering a side of myself I'd long forgotten. With each passing moment, I became more immersed in the energy between us, fully embracing the woman I'd kept hidden for so long. After our second drink, the hostess approached to escort us to our table. She led us to a cozy, dimly lit corner of the restaurant, where the ambiance felt intimate and perfect. The meal was exquisite, but it was Alexander's company that captivated me. He listened intently, his blue eyes never straying far from mine, and his witty comments kept me smiling. At one point, he leaned in and asked in a low, teasing voice, "Do you still want to spend the night with me?" Instead of answering, I responded with a playful gesture. Slipping off one of my heels, I slid my foot under the table, brushing it gently against his leg. His eyes widened as he glanced down, catching sight of my red-painted toenails through the sheer fabric of my tights. A slow, knowing smile spread across his face, and he murmured, "It's time we go." Hand in hand, we left the restaurant, the cool night air heightening the electricity between us. He led me to his hotel, where he'd booked a room in advance. As the elevator ascended, reality crept in, and for a fleeting moment, thoughts of Jason flickered in my mind. Alexander must have sensed my hesitation because he pulled me close, his strong arms grounding me. His kiss was deep and consuming, dissolving my doubts as if they'd never existed. In that instant, I chose to surrender to the night, to the moment, and to him. Inside the room, Alexander wasted no time. He unzipped my dress, letting it pool around my feet as he took in the sight of me. His appreciative gaze and gentle touch made me feel both beautiful and desired. He whispered softly as he undressed me further, his words igniting a heat I hadn't felt in years. When he laid me on the bed, every movement was deliberate, filled with care and passion. The night unfolded in a way I could never have imagined. Alexander's touch was confident yet tender, and his kisses left me breathless. He even asked me to put my heels back on, confessing how much he loved the look. His request was thrilling, making me feel daring and alive. As we made love, his intensity swept me away, leaving no room for guilt or second thoughts. In that moment, it was just us, lost in the electricity of our connection. At one point, Alexander looked deeply into my eyes and whispered, "I love you, Maggie." His words caught me off guard, stirring something raw and vulnerable inside me. Tears welled up as I absorbed the depth of the experience. It felt transformative, almost sacred. We didn't stop at once. The passion reignited again and again, each encounter more profound than the last. By morning, as the first rays of sunlight peeked through the curtains, reality began to return. The memories of Jason and the life we shared resurfaced, accompanied by an ache of guilt. Alexander, however, remained tender. Stroking my hair, he spoke softly. "Maggie, I meant what I said. You're incredible, sensual, strong, and captivating. I want to see you again. Can we make this happen?" I hesitated, knowing the truth was unavoidable. "Alexander," I began carefully, "this has been the most incredible experience of my life, and you are an amazing man. But I'm married, and this was a one-time thing. I can't do this again. I'll treasure tonight forever, but my place is with Jason." He held my gaze, his expression equal parts hopeful and understanding. "Think about it," he urged gently. "I can bring so much happiness into your life. If you ever change your mind, I'll be here." "I'll think about it," I promised, though deep down I knew my answer wouldn't change. He kissed me once more, and for a brief moment, I allowed myself to imagine a life where this was possible. As I left the room, the weight of my decisions settled over me. I couldn't deny the beauty of what I'd experienced, but I knew my heart and loyalty belonged to Jason. Now, all I could hope was that I could find a way to reconcile the choices I'd made with the life I still wanted to keep. After breakfast at the hotel, Alexander drove me home. As I turned on my phone for the first time since last night, a barrage of missed calls and messages flooded my screen. One message from Jason stood out, tugging painfully at my conscience. The thought of him suffering while I was absent made my chest tighten with guilt. My eyes brimmed with tears as I realized that his pain was my doing. Before I could scroll further, the phone began to ring. It was Brandy. "Mom, where are you?" she asked, her voice frantic. "I'm on my way home now," I replied, my stomach knotting. "What's wrong?" "Mom," she began shakily. "There was a fire at the house. We tried calling you all night, but your phone was off." "A fire?" I gasped, the word catching in my throat. "Is your dad okay? Where is he?" "That's the thing," she said, her voice breaking. "He's missing. Nobody's heard from him, and he's not answering his phone. I have a terrible feeling about this." "I'll be there soon," I said quickly. "Stay put. I'll call you back." As Alexander turned onto our street, my heart sank. Fire trucks and police vehicles crowded the driveway. From the front, the house looked intact, but a heavy sense of dread pressed down on me. I stepped out of the car and approached a firefighter standing nearby. "Excuse me, I'm Maggie Spencer, the homeowner. What happened?" My voice trembled as I spoke. The firefighter glanced at me, then at Alexander, before responding. "Mrs. Spencer, most of the house was spared, but there's significant smoke damage. You won't be able to stay here until it's cleaned up. The worst of it was in the small cottage behind the house. It's completely destroyed. I'm sorry." "My studio?" I whispered, the words barely escaping my lips. "It's gone?" He nodded solemnly. "I'm afraid so. There's nothing left but ashes. We'll investigate the cause, but in the meantime, a detective needs to speak with you." The weight of his words hit me like a blow. My legs gave out and Alexander caught me, guiding me to sit on the curb. Tears streamed down my face as I stared at the smoldering remains of my studio, the place where I'd poured my heart into my art. It was all gone. I barely noticed Detective Wilson approach until he spoke. "Mrs. Spencer, do you have any idea what happened here?" "No," I stammered, shaking my head. "I wasn't home last night. I don't know anything about it." His eyes flicked to Alexander. "And you are?" he asked. "Just a friend," Alexander replied uneasily. The detective's expression hardened as he turned back to me. "Where is your husband, Mrs. Spencer?" "I don't know," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "And where were you last night?" I hesitated, then answered reluctantly. "I was downtown, at the Hilton, with Alexander." His raised eyebrows and the exchanged glances between him and his colleague made my stomach churn. I had just admitted to being with another man while my husband was unaccounted for. The implications were damning. "Mrs. Spencer," the detective continued, "are you and your husband separated? Do you know where he might have been?" "No," I said quickly, my cheeks burning. "We're not separated. We're happily married." The words sounded hollow even to me, given the circumstances. "When you hear from him, have him call me," the detective said, handing me his card. "We'll need to ask him some questions." As he walked away, I was left grappling with a storm of emotions: grief for the loss of my studio, anger at the devastation of my sanctuary, and fear over Jason's disappearance. The possibility that he could be involved in this nightmare sent a chill through me. I called Brandy. "Have you heard from your dad?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "No," she said, frustration lacing her tone. "Why weren't you here last night, Mom? You promised you'd be here with him." I was about to respond when she added in a whisper, "He threw me out. He told me I wasn't his daughter anymore." Her words hit me like a blow to the chest. Jason had always been a loving father. For him to say something so cruel was completely out of character. What had I done to push him to this point? Inside the house, the stench of smoke clung to everything, and the walls bore dark stains from the fire. It was clear that living here was impossible for the time being. As I moved through the rooms to gather a few things, dread settled over me. Entering the bedroom, I froze. Every trace of me was gone: my clothes, my shoes, my personal belongings. Even the wedding rings I'd left on the nightstand were missing. A sickening realization crept over me. Jason must have taken everything. Did he think I had abandoned him? Had he destroyed my things in a fit of anger? My knees buckled under the weight of my own guilt and fear. I rushed back to the studio, sifting through the charred remains. Among the ashes, I found scorched fragments of paintings, melted frames, and singed fabric. It was clear that Jason hadn't just left. He had erased me from his life. Overwhelmed, I called Brandy again, my voice breaking. "Brandy, I can't stay here. I have nowhere to go." Alexander, who had been silently watching, stepped closer. "You can stay with me," he offered gently. But I couldn't face him. Not now. "I need to be alone," I said sharply. Hurt flashed across his face, but he nodded and left without another word. As I stood amidst the ruins of my life, tears streaming down my face, I felt utterly lost. Everything I had built, everything I had loved, seemed to be slipping through my fingers. At that moment, I was consumed by anger at myself and at Alexander. Deep down, I knew the blame was mine alone, but it was easier to resent him for the role he'd played in my betrayal. I hated myself for what I had done, for the selfish choices that had led to this moment. Through choked sobs, I turned to Brandy. "I've lost your father," I said, my voice breaking. "Don't say that, Mom," Brandy replied, her tone gentle but strained. "Dad loves you. He always has." "He burned everything, Brandy," I cried. "All my clothes, my art, my studio, everything is gone. He didn't leave me a single thing, not even a place to stay. He won't answer my calls. I've hurt him so deeply, and I don't blame him for being furious. What I did to him was unforgivable. I shouldn't have gone on that date. I should have told him how I felt instead. We could have found a way to work through it. But my selfishness ruined everything. If I were him, I wouldn't forgive me either. What do I do now? I have no home, no clothes, nothing." Brandy's voice wavered as she tried to reassure me. "Mom, you can't shoulder all the blame. I'm at fault too. You can stay with us until everything is sorted out. This afternoon, we'll go shopping for clothes and figure out the next steps. I shook my head, my voice trembling. Brandy, it's not just the house. It's everything. All my paintings, sculptures, years of work, they're all gone. 30 years of marriage, 2 decades of my life's passion. It's all destroyed, and now I'm completely alone. I don't even know what I'm living for anymore. I broke down, collapsing under the weight of grief as neighbors watched from the street. Then, as if the universe were twisting the knife, my phone began to ring. Seeing Jason's name on the screen made my heart stop. With trembling hands, I answered, desperate for a lifeline. "Jason, is that you?" I asked, breathless and hopeful. His voice came through, cold and detached. "How are you, Maggie?" he asked flatly. "Jason, please, where are you? We need to talk," I begged, trying to steady my voice. "No, Maggie," he said sharply. "There's nothing left to talk about. I know everything Brandy told me, and let me be clear. She's your daughter, not mine. As far as I'm concerned, you're both dead to me. This will be the last time we speak." "Jason, no, don't say that," I cried. "I love you. You have to know that. Please come home so we can talk. The studio is gone. Did you do this?" His voice grew harsher. "Maggie, I didn't burn the studio. You did. Maybe not with your hands, but with your betrayal. When I saw your wedding rings abandoned on the dresser and knew you had given yourself to another man, you ceased to exist to me. You destroyed everything we had. And Brandy's involvement? It's beyond comprehension. I'm done. I'll meet with the lawyers on Monday to start the divorce." "Jason, please," I begged, my voice cracking. "We've spent 30 amazing years together. You can't just throw that away." "Maggie," he said, his tone ice cold, "you threw it away. You planned this, manipulated me into 2 weeks of affection just to ease your guilt before you cheated on me, with our daughter's help. It was cruel and unforgivable. No one could accept that kind of betrayal. I hope you regret this for the rest of your life. Don't contact me again. Speak to me through my lawyer." "Jason, no, wait, Jason!" I screamed into the phone, but the line went dead. Just like that, the man I loved and the life we had built was gone. I collapsed onto the ground, clutching the phone as sobs racked my body. Brandy arrived moments later and pulled me into her arms. Together, we cried over the loss of everything: my marriage, my home, and the world I had cherished. When we arrived at Brandy's house, she explained the situation to her husband, Mike. His reaction was immediate and explosive. "Brandy, you encouraged your mom to go on a date with another man?" he shouted, his voice thick with disbelief. "And you left your father alone? What were you thinking? Did you honestly believe he would just be okay with this? What kind of man would ever accept something like that? Is this how you'll treat me when we're older? Betray me the way your mom betrayed your dad? Jason was a good man. You and your mom were everything to him, and you destroyed him." Brandy stood frozen, her face pale as his anger continued to pour out. Mike's voice softened but remained firm. "I'll be calling Jason to apologize for what you've done. As for us, we need to talk, seriously talk, about where we go from here. I can't pretend this hasn't shaken me. Having kids with you? That's off the table until I'm sure I understand your values, because I won't tolerate anything like this in my own marriage." His words hit Brandy hard. She hadn't fully considered the deeper consequences of her actions until now. To her, it had been a single harmless night after years of marriage. But as she faced the reality of what her choices had unleashed, she realized the magnitude of the damage. Her parents' marriage was over, her family shattered, and her own relationship with Mike now hung by a thread. The consequences of her decisions were only beginning to unfold, and they would haunt all of us for a long time to come.
5 days after everything collapsed, I returned home to face the aftermath. I decided against involving insurance. The hassle wasn't worth it. During a meeting with my lawyer, I made one thing clear. The house was non-negotiable in the divorce. Maggie could take half of our savings, but I refused to pay child support. If she pushed back, I'd expose her affair with Brandy's friend's father. The divorce was already underway. I'd also consulted a criminal defense attorney about burning down the studio. Since I owned the property and wasn't filing an insurance claim, the risk of criminal charges was low. At most, I might face a fine. Relieved, I turned my focus to moving on from Maggie and rebuilding my life. Walking through the house, I surveyed the fire damage. estimating the cost of repairs. In one of the bedrooms, as I examined the walls, I heard the front door creak open. Brandy's voice echoed down the hall. "Dad, are you here?" she called, her tone urgent and shaky. I stayed silent, staring out the window at the ash pile that had been Maggie's art studio. A grim satisfaction settled over me. Brandy's footsteps grew louder until she appeared in the doorway, tears streaming down her face. She ran to me, wrapping her arms around me. "Daddy, please forgive us," she sobbed. "We love you. I love you. Don't shut us out." I stiffened, stepping back to free myself from her grip. My voice was cold. "Brandy, I've told you, I'll never forgive either of you. Your betrayal is something I'll carry forever. Now leave." "No," she said, shaking her head despite her tears. "You're my father. You love me. You can't just erase me." I met her gaze, my expression unyielding. "You're wrong. I don't have a daughter anymore. The person who betrayed me isn't my child. Leave." Her voice cracked as she pleaded again. "Mom needs you. She cries all the time and regrets everything. She knows she made a mistake. Please talk to her." I shook my head, unmoved. "Never." She ended our marriage the moment she left her wedding rings on the table and spent the night with someone else. It's over. You and your mother can reach me through my lawyer. I'm changing my number today. Her voice broke. "You're really throwing away 30 years of marriage." "No, Brandy," I said sharply. "Your mother threw it away when she chose someone else. Both of you destroyed everything we built, and I'll never forgive that. Now get out of my house." Her face crumpled as fresh tears spilled. Without another word, she turned and ran, her sobs echoing down the hallway. The door slammed, leaving the house in silence. Brandy's pain was evident, but it paled compared to my own. Supporting Maggie's betrayal had crossed a line, and there was no undoing the damage. I wasn't ready to process it, let alone forgive. The next day, Maggie was served divorce papers. She was devastated, realizing the full extent of what she had lost. She tried to fight it, suggesting counseling and reaching out to me, but I ignored every attempt. From that moment on, I never spoke to her or Brandy again. Even Mike, Brandy's husband, called me in disbelief. "I can't believe what they did to you," he said. "It's making me question everything about my marriage to Brandy. If she can betray you, how can I trust her?" He admitted he was unsure about their future, especially having children. Counseling helped, but their marriage remained strained. Maggie's life fell apart. After the house was repaired, she wanted to move back in, but the divorce left it in my name. Instead, she ended up in a small apartment, working at an art gallery to survive. Her days of creative freedom and comfort were over. The life we had built was gone, reduced to distant memories. All of it, our love, our home, our future, was destroyed for a fleeting moment of excitement. No amount of regret or tears could change that. Sleepless nights haunted her as she grappled with the consequences of her choices. A few months after restoring the house, I sold it and moved away. Maggie, unaware of the sale, visited one day, hoping to see me, only to find strangers living there. It was the final blow, closing that chapter of her life for good.
When I rang the doorbell, a young couple answered. They seemed happy and content, a sharp contrast to the chaos inside me. The woman smiled warmly. "Hello, how can we help you?" she asked. I hesitated, swallowing hard. "I'm looking for Jason Spencer. Is he here?" Their expressions softened with recognition. "Oh, you mean the man who sold us this house?" the woman replied. Her words hit me like a blow. "No, he said he was leaving the country to start a new life. He was so kind and helpful." The pit in my stomach deepened. "Are you Maggie?" she asked. "Yes," I whispered. "He left an envelope for you," she said, stepping back into the house. Moments later, she returned and handed me a sealed letter. "He asked us to give this to you if you ever came by." I gripped the envelope tightly. "Thank you," I murmured, holding back tears. "Good luck, and enjoy this lovely home." Tears spilled down my cheeks as I walked back to my car. Sitting in the driver's seat, I clutched the envelope, the last connection to Jason. He was gone. Truly gone. The weight of that reality hit me harder than I thought possible. I had destroyed 30 years of love for one selfish night. What had I done? Back at my apartment, the emptiness echoed my despair. Sitting on the bed, trembling, I opened the envelope. Jason's familiar handwriting brought fresh tears as I read. "Maggie, 30 amazing years. I'll always cherish the life we shared. You were my first and only love, and I'm sorry I failed you as a husband. If I had known you needed more, I would have moved heaven and earth to provide it. But since you chose a different path, this is how our marriage ends, apart. Those 2 wonderful weeks before your betrayal made me believe you had fallen in love with me again. They were the happiest of my life. But when Brandy revealed how you used those moments to distract me, it shattered me. You probably know I planned a special night that evening. A surprise with roses, your favorite chocolates and wine. I wanted to celebrate us and gift you something meaningful, a new cruise on the yacht. When I learned your affection was fake and your true goal was to be with another man, I was utterly humiliated. You've succeeded, Maggie, in destroying me and our marriage. I can't stay in this city anymore. I've left my job and started over in another country. Don't try to find me. I've gone offline and have no interest in speaking to you or Brandy again. This chapter is closed and I'm moving on. It will take years to recover from the pain you both caused me. I couldn't stay in that home without the love of my life or my daughter. Since you're both gone to me, I have no reason to remain. I hope your night was worth it. Enjoy the memories you'll share with your daughter. Have a good life, Maggie. Forget me, as I have forgotten you. My new life begins now. J.S. By the time I finished reading, the tears I thought had dried long ago flowed freely, soaking my pillow as I curled into a ball. His words cut deeper than I could have imagined. The fleeting thrill of that one night now felt like a distant, bitter regret, replaced by overwhelming sorrow. I had destroyed everything. Jason's love, our life, the home we built. All for one moment of selfish indulgence. Now, at 52, I was alone. A shadow of the woman I once was, haunted by my choices. The future without Jason stretched ahead, empty and bleak. I had traded a life of love and meaning for a brief thrill, and the cost was more than I could bear.
Late one night, I stood outside Alexander's house, gripping a cold crowbar. It wasn't a decision I made lightly, but after everything he had done to ruin my life, this confrontation felt inevitable. When the door opened, I forced my way inside. Alexander froze, startled by my presence and the anger written across my face. "Who are you?" he asked, stepping back cautiously. "Jason," I said evenly. "The husband of the woman you stole." His face shifted, a mix of fear and surprise. Raising his hands defensively, he stammered, "I thought Maggie was okay with it. I swear, I didn't know." "Save it," I snapped, stepping closer. "You knew she was married. You knew she was mine, and you didn't care." Before he could reply, months of rage and humiliation surged to the surface. I acted. The crowbar struck hard and he crumpled to the floor, but I didn't stop. Each blow released the fury I had carried for too long. When I finally stopped, Alexander lay on the ground, visibly shaken and injured, his posture reflecting the aftermath of the altercation. I crouched down, locking eyes with him as he whimpered. "Here's some advice," I said coldly. "Messing with a married woman is bad for your health." I walked out, wiping my hands on my jeans, and climbed into the waiting Uber. As we headed to the airport, I felt neither regret nor satisfaction, just closure. By the time Alexander reached the hospital and contacted the police, I was already on a plane to my new life in Manabí, Ecuador. The authorities took 2 weeks to realize I had left the country. It didn't matter. Ecuador doesn't extradite for attack, and I had no intention of returning. Alexander would have to live with the aftermath of his choices, just as I had endured the fallout of Maggie's betrayal. From what I heard, he spent weeks in the hospital and months in physical therapy, learning to walk again. The 25 stitches on his face would forever remind him of his actions. Meanwhile, I started fresh. With over $750,000 from selling my house and savings, my beachfront apartment in Ecuador would sustain me for life. 6 months later, I sat on a beach in Puerto Lopez, beer in hand, watching the waves. For the first time in ages, I felt at peace. Breakups happen. Divorce is normal. What isn't normal is staying in a place where you're not valued. Maggie's life had unraveled. She ended up in a tiny apartment, working at an art gallery to make ends meet. Brandy, her co-conspirator, faced her own struggles. Her husband nearly divorced her, but eventually stayed, though it took years for him to trust her again. None of it mattered to me. Sitting on that beach, I knew one thing for sure. My past was behind me. I had burned the bridges that tethered me to a life of betrayal and pain. My future was mine to build, and it looked brighter than ever.